Sacramento, what if your home's biggest asset has been hiding in plain sight? With new state laws and a hot rental market, turning a room, a garage, or even your backyard into income is more possible than ever. But going from neighbor to landlord can feel like a maze of rules and risks. Our next guest is here with insights on what to keep in mind to turn your home into your side hustle. Let's welcome lawyer and mom of two. We have Ramona Morgan. Good to have you, Ramona.
Hi, Desiree. It's great to be here.
Yes. Okay. So, Ramona, we've seen accessory dwelling units, otherwise known as ADUs, popping up everywhere, along with converted garages and more. So, what's the first legal step homeowners need to take before even thinking about a renter in one of these units?
Sure. So, first thing that you need to do is you need to get a building permit for any changes that you'll be making. Then you go ahead with the construction, then you'll get a final inspection, and then finally you'll get something that's considered the golden ticket. It's your certificate of occupancy. And it basically means that the dwelling is safe enough for people to inhabit it. And that's the point where you can go ahead and list it for rental.
Okay, and there are exciting new doors opening for homeowners thanks to state and city laws like SB 9. In simple terms, what do these recent changes allow people to do with their property that maybe they couldn't do before?
Sure. So, in simple terms, it means that the missing middle, that group of middle class people who weren't able to afford these big homes and also didn't want to be in large units, can now find affordable housing because people are allowed to build on their property. So, these are really important developments. As you said, it's statewide, but Sacramento has gone even further than California, and they're allowing up to 8 unit dwellings on these properties. So, it's a really, really big, important development that should bring about more affordable housing.
Okay. And then, Ramona, what if someone owns a mobile home, but they don't own the land it's on? What are the rules around renting that home to someone else? Can they even do that?
Well, it depends on what the lease says for the land itself. You might be tempted. You might think, okay, now you're ready to transition out of your mobile home, so you want to go ahead and rent it out. But you really have to make sure that the land that you're leasing it on allows you to do that. So just check with your lease and see that it's permitted. If not, you can see, what other workarounds you might be able to find or figure out.
All right. And then another scenario. Let's say you live near downtown or the Golden One Center and want to rent a room for maybe Kings games or conventions coming up. What's the difference between a short term guest rental and a long term tenant in the eyes of Sacramento law?
Okay, just think 30, 30, 30. That is such an important date. You don't want to go beyond 30 days.
Okay.
Once you go beyond 30 days, they're really considered a tenant in the eyes of the law. And that means that they have all of the rights and the protections. That means that you're restricted from evicting them. And you also have notice requirements. And it can be very, very tough. So you want to stay below 30 days. And you also want to make sure you're not gaming the system too much. So you don't want to do one day off and have them back for another 29
Mm.
days because you also want to stay within the spirit of the law as well.
Yeah, good to know. I'm going to remember that 30, 30, 30. The alliteration helps it
30, 30.
stick. Okay, what about your family member or friend needs a place to stay or your adult child is moving back home? You want to help, but you also need them to contribute. How do you create a simple, friendly home share agreement that keeps everything clear and prevents family drama that could maybe arise?
Yeah, and I think this is such a great idea because people move in and sometimes you have different expectations. So you can go online, you can find them. I mean, for something simple, ChatGPT isn't the worst option. The real important thing here is to make sure that every party has the same intentions. So you go ahead and you figure out who's going to pay for what, who's going to share what, and make sure that that's very clear. And that's really the best way to go forward.
Yeah, and it's nice just to have that documentation too, so it's on paper what was agreed to. Another scenario
Right.
for you, if you inherit a property with siblings, what's the most crucial legal document to have before you all decide to become landlords together?
Yeah, inheritances are so interesting because in order to have the benefits of an inheritance, obviously you've had a loss within the family. So emotions are running very high. And that's really a scenario where people aren't always functioning as logically and rationally as they ideally would be. So it's really good. You really should have something called a partnership agreement or a co partnership agreement. And that just spells out who's going to be responsible for what the rights are, what the obligations are. You can find very simple versions of them online. Obviously, you should also reach out to a lawyer if it's something a bit more complex and more valuable property that you're dealing with. But definitely in that context, you want to keep those relationships, functional,
Yeah.
lasting, and you want to make sure you don't have any disagreements down the line.
There we go. All helpful advice as usual from Ramona. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to let our viewers know where they can get a little bit more information. With the right preparation, taking the leap from neighbor to landlord is doable. You can find out more by heading to ramonamorgan.com.